Yo, yo, it's ODB from OLP. This is issue 181 of Mini Truckin Magazine, January 2007. This thing is jam-packed. We have a lot to talk about. Stick with me to the end. I'm going to show you the 8-page poster. This issue is still complete, so the poster's still in here, but I will show you what the poster looks like. Now, every one of these flip-throughs, all the way back to issue 1, they're all in a playlist. So if you need to go back and find something, it's there. This is Michael Phillips's quote, Little Shop Blazer. That's what many folks know it as. Has an 02 Toyota front end on it in all of its under construction glory. Mike Alexander's 17th credited cover. This issue is huge, not counting the pull-out poster. It has 124 pages, so there's only 10 issues that were that big, and 5 of them were 132 pages. It's the fourth total cover trucks with Detata wheels, and it's the 46th Chevy on the cover. That may surprise you. It's the 12th Blazer on the cover. Fun fact, there are 19 total features in this issue, counting all the under construction. By far, it's the most. I think issue 29 had 15, and I didn't always count the under construction, but 15, that was a lot, and this one has 19. So there's definitely a lot to talk about. You also have the Truck of the Year. That was something that was started and was pretty cool in the 2000s, and we'll get a chance to see who that was to remind everyone. Shout out to Nick Crouch. Nick, thanks for chiming in from Surface Art. Does amazing work, and of course, he did some cool stuff. He might be able to chime in. But again, when you look at this cover, you'll get a chance to see some of the artwork with the grinding sparks and things like that. You got some metal here, so it looks pretty cool. Again, when you look at the feature, you'll see the background where this was actually shot, but then that gives you a little bit of intel of, what was added from, a Photoshop or whatever perspective, if that makes sense. Also, Havoc. So Chevy Trucks Havoc 2006. I didn't get to go to the show, but it was epic. They had invited former cover truck owners to the event. So, wow, what an intro. Let's jump right in. If you like what we're doing here, leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. Again, watch these videos to the end. It certainly helps the channel. And check out OLP, our lifestyle podcast, via any podcast app. Of course, the bigger books, if you will, are going to require more advertisers, and there's certainly plenty of advertisers in here. 8-lug diesel hits newsstands. That was a cool mag. My truck, a fun fact, actually made it in a show coverage in that mag. Not that issue, though. Dragging through the year in review. So, man, 2006 was definitely an amazing year. You get a chance to see a little bit of the insight there on what we got to deal with. And again, this is going to be a best of issue. So, TOC, table of contents, boom. You got the Little Shop Blazer. This thing was just amazing. And I will try to show a photo. First time I ever saw this thing, I had to look back. It was 2006 at Blood Drag. And it was pretty cool that they brought it down for that. We get a chance to see here our biggest construction zone yet. And it goes on to say Mikey P's Little Shop Blazer. 96 Blazer, of course. Artwork by Nick Crouch. You can get a chance to see where it was shot. So a very, very cool location, which ties in again to the cover. I love the fact that we got all of the main features up there. Now, keep in mind the 19 that I talked about, that includes the special section where we have the under construction. So, you can slice and dice it either way, but super cool. It would have been super cool to have your truck featured either way, if that makes sense. And what I'm going to do here, if I can, with my other hand. Okay. So I did try to find, for some reason, I didn't take a lot of photos at Blood Drag 06. I think because the digital camera I had hardly had any memory. This was at Laid Out at the Park in 2015. So April 11th, 2015, I took this photo, and this is the finished version of it. So it's pretty cool. I think it did change hands several times. Some of you know the history on this truck a little bit more than I do, but this thing is sick. You can see here really quick. just look at how that front fender, all that work into that one piece. And you see right here, boom, it just, I mean, sick, you know, reskinned, you know, all the doors, you know, this body line down here, just a lot of work. And, you know, the S10 guys and even non-S10 guys will totally get it. A lot of work in that thing. So it was cool to see that it did, in fact, get finished. So again, I have went through every issue since the first issue, and I'll continue to go through these till we hit 269. And then from there, you know, Mini Truckin Magazine's back, so there's more opportunity. Here's Retrorado. This thing is super cool. So Retrorado, if you will, Colorado, chopped the body, dropped and rolling hard. When John Jackson shot this and I saw it in this feature, I was blown away. You got this cool top of the parking lot, if you will, parking garage. Super cool truck. I never got to see this. I don't know how. But the person here we can see is Sean, Marasco, and he was in Orlando, Florida. That's why I say that. Super cool vibe. I think the colors on this thing look great. You got kind of an older school style, you know, billet wheel, if you will, to a certain extent. Love the oatmeal color interior. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Rob Scepter's color. Just a real classy kind of hot rod themed Colorado. Super sick. This is one of those trucks, like, to be honest with you, I don't know whatever happened to it. Never got a chance to see it. John Jackson, of course, did his thing. And very cool. Love these. I mentioned Brandon Burrell recently doing a parking lot, parking garage, you know, rooftop shoot. This looks like somewhere in Orlando, I would assume. Super clean. Super awesome. And trucks like that, man, I mean, that thing could come out today and just be a beast. Okay, so we have the big show, North Carolina's favorite event, Wrks. You got Rangers for days up in the Midwest. This thing always kind of tripped me out. Remember when the newer Escalades, I think, were kind of coming out with those huge taillights. I don't know that that ever stuck in the scene, but of course the scene is all about doing something different, so I'm all for it. And, you know, this here, I kind of call it the Jesse James era. You know, when Jesse James had his logo, you know, with these guys here. And then, you know, we kind of saw a lot of trucks, you know, even Truck Club logos, they were kind of using that as well. Show coverage. This thing looks crazy. This makes me do a double take because I saw an article the other day on a person that had, looks like a Bentley, but it's actually like a watercraft, and it looks like a car driving on the water, just like that truck. I was like, wow, it's crazy. People are building basically custom boats that look just like a car driving on the water. I'm like, there you go. There's a mini truck doing it too. So this is Havoc, Chevy trucks, Havoc 06. I think this was sometimes referred to as Halfway Havoc. You guys can kind of chime in. In this era, my son was very young, so although I was still going to shows, like this show like this was like, I just was in a different place. So like, although I remember hearing about this, I just didn't make it. And I remember hearing about it, I think, from Jimmy and those guys. They were at Scrapin' Customs at the time. You've got Farva, you got the Mazda I love, Brandon Shelley's Frontier, and then of course you got Chick's Ride. They do say above Chick's Ride that she ended up, rest in peace, Jen Lacey, won the cover truck Corral, which was super cool. This micro cab looking awesome, clean hard body. But if anybody went to the show, comment. I'm very curious to see what you remember. I think Eddie was behind it as well, Sabreco, and you know, he had his hand in it. And it's definitely one of those shows that I think people still kind of talk about today. They kind of pulled off some magic. There's Jamie Tiffany's truck that goes on to grace the cover. The magic that they pulled off was just really kind of getting a lot of former cover trucks. It was an indoor show. I think people said it was like one of those, like you kind of park and then you don't have to go anywhere. I don't know if the hotel was connected. I think it was like kind of something like that is what I remember hearing. But either way, you know, to have an all indoor show like this, there's a few of them, but for our scene, that's pretty cool. So road trip destination Havoc. So this was kind of cool that they coupled this with the Havoc show. You got Brew Breaker. We've had him on. Thanks to Randy and team linking us up with the big homie. He drugged the heck out of that. You got Kentucky into house. Shout out to LMC and all those guys at Lowest Common Denominator. Here you got Chicks Ride. Here you have Jimmy and Shane when they were at STC or SNC. Excuse me, SNC Scrape In Customs. Kind of see Will right there. Jimmy in a rare photo right here, and then there's Shane. But they built my truck. They started building my truck, and then when Jimmy branched off, he of course finished it. This was super cool too. You know, you had this cool shoot here. You had Bill bring the Hummer from Extensive. You also brought the SUV that we just saw, probably in the last issue. So that was probably where they linked up. That would make sense to me. And then of course Bill riding dirty here, doing the damn thing. The triple OG. Sadistic stuffs another taco. How to tuck 20s on your Tacoma. This was in an era when everybody was trying to kind of go big or go home, and you know, a tech article like this would have been huge. You know, for someone to kind of go, oh, that's how they did it. All right, so here you have Little Shop Special Dirty Deeds done dirt cheap, and this is cool because Eric Saliba, shout out to Ron Perkins at Hammered, who started Hammered, he would say Saliba's name, and I was like, oh, that's how you say it. I don't think I could ever say it before I heard him say it. But this was by Eric and Mike, and then of course Mike did the photography. The cool thing was Eric also wrote, I think early on at Straight Trucks or mid 2000s, he did a column there, and they always did a good job. But this thing is just insane, and I think, like, you know, for our scene in this era, everybody was pushing the boundaries, and certainly this thing probably doesn't get the credit it deserves, maybe just because when it got finished, like, maybe, I don't want to say people forgot about it, maybe the colors, maybe there was something about it. But if you know this truck, you know the significance of it in terms of all of this work. Again, when I got a chance to see it, I saw the chassis, which I didn't dig up that photo, but from at Showfest, and they talk about, you know, getting the truck buttoned up for Showfest, and then of course I saw it at Blood Drag. But you got the older dash, tons of metal work in this thing. You got the poster, which I'll show you at the end. AVS on the Web had sponsored that. And then you have, this was in the era, I think Mike Alexander even had in one of his renderings where they were going to have like plexiglass see-through pieces here, and you're probably thinking, why? Well, as much work as going into these chassis and people pushing the limits to go, man, we're going to have all this done. It was going to be a way to be able to go, here's a glimpse into the floor, or into the chassis rather. Here you can kind of see, almost looks like the bench from Old Crispy, the color wise. Maybe they threw it in there. I don't know. I just thought about that. But, and then you could see the work kind of very similar to what Chad Lucas and others had to do, you know, with these SUVs when they're tubbing the crap out of everything. Now, another thing I like too is how you have this layout here. So obviously you've got the write-up, but what they did, and of course you can't really see unless I hold this up, you can kind of see there in the background, which is pretty cool. So I do want to flip back here real quick and go, kind of just go look at this thing, right? And then you get a chance to see here. And it looks like where this photo was taken is more like where the table of contents was at, because you've got this wall right here. And then when you look here, and someone could maybe chime in, but obviously, you know, you've got this embankment here. So they probably said, okay, you know, the sun, or, you know, maybe they were over here and they kind of moved it. Now, from what I could tell, obviously in this feature, the truck wasn't running. But of course, a couple of guys would have been able to push this thing where they needed to. So we looked at that. We looked at this. This thing, again, was just insane to the point that, you know, imagine having a cover truck that had this much of a feature, you know, table of contents, cover, and then, you know, 6 or 8 page feature. Just insanity. You could see all the work underneath. And I really think this helped push a lot of trucks. You know, people would see this and go, wow, look at all this extra stuff they're doing. You know, they talk about, or Eric does in here, all of the work that was going into this thing. Just insane. And then there's Eric, and then the owner, and then boom. that photo. Yeah, there you go. So at that point, they had loaded it up and taken that photo. So you wouldn't have got a chance to really realize that that was on a trailer unless they had that photo. But super cool. And, you know, the importance of a feature for an under construction, being that under construction, you know, has been with this publication since the beginning. That's a key thing. I would also say, you know, this is a truck, in my opinion, that, you know, the team at Mini Truckin, you know, I don't know what the condition is now. I've seen it, 9 years ago. But, you know, this is the type of truck I'd love to see lineage-wise brought forward and ran as a feature, or on the cover, potentially. But again, that's not my call on the new Mini Truckin magazine. In your face like a can of mace, baby. Here you go, Nathan Wimmer, 98S10. I just had dinner with a guy, Jason, from NC, Florida, that bought a truck from Nathan, I think the hard body. But these guys have been doing it a while, the Wimmers. Shout out to them. And here you have Brandon Burrell shoots this one again. A little bit different of a feature, kind of that low rear three-quarter shot, which I dig. Colorado custom steering wheel. Best in the business, in my opinion. Okay, I'm not going to read the title of this feature. I was looking at it earlier, Nihongo. I think I could say it. But this is from Japan's Style Concepts. Love this feature. Pretty cool. You've got the text here. Boom. You've got that three-quarter shot. Just a super clean B2200. And even just with a three-page feature, I also talk about that's really all you need. Something a little bit different here is you got a crazy speaker box. In this era, a lot of people were inverting the subs, but then, you know, you had the whole back wall blocked off with amps. You don't see that as much. You do sometimes, but that era, even with the subs kind of flipped and inverted like that, you don't see that even as much. I guess you can technically do them either way, but, you know, that was kind of a wild thing that you'd see in interiors. Here's Slammin Jammin. Never got a chance to go to this show, but I always remember seeing the ads for it and these features, or show coverage rather, and it was always cool. It's definitely was a staple in our scene. The poster over here is trying to jump in and say, hey, show me now. Here's insurance job. Cutting or getting rear-ended isn't a bad thing. Many Mini Truckers have had to deal with that and continue to have to deal with that. John Knight from Chandler, Indiana. This was always a cool mod to me. Frenching the tag in the body line and then raising it up a little bit. To me, I like this speaker box setup more. Again, it's just personal preference, don't get me wrong. But I always like the subs mounted that way. What do you guys think? Super clean. And then Dust Off 2006, Texas Brings the Heat again and again. Super clean. You can see here. I was just looking at, I've been working on a little reel for this truck. This truck doesn't get the credit it deserves. This 88 to 98 thing was insane. It was on some covers that people have forgotten about. Really, really a lot of history with it. Here you have Anthony, aka Ant. His Ombre, one of the baddest, or excuse me, Ombre, Isuzu Space Cab. What am I thinking here? But one of the baddest trucks built, hands down. You know, you continue to hear people talk about this truck today. It has stood the test of time. And somebody had chimed in recently and said, hey, it was for sale again. It's one of those trucks where I think people like really enjoy it and they go, wow, it's a lot of work, you know, to take this thing to shows and set it up and all that. Okay, so here's MTC-zone, so the construction zone. So you got Mike Alexander's chassis here, that crazy Toyota he was working on at the time. You got Jared Anderson, he was 18. I'm not going to read everybody's names, but this truck goes on. You guys might know this guy's name, Joel or Joel's. This thing goes on to be pretty awesome. Bagged. This thing was always one of my favorite trucks. I got a chance to see it at Showfest. That might be where this photo was taken. John Henson. This thing was just insane. And just even today, just that shell, man, I love it. Big wheels, nice billet, super low. Of course, step-side bed. Jamie Tiffany's goes on to grace the cover. Here is Go Easy. So this is a 64 Datsun, super cool. The importance of these under construction features cannot go understated. It definitely gave people hope. It also gave people a chance to kind of go, look, I put a lot of time and effort into my truck. This thing, I mean, look at the style on it. Super cool. You know, just because it's not totally finished doesn't mean it can't grace print, in my opinion. A lot of cool features. Imagine being, you know, a guy that goes, look, man, you know, boom, right next to the homie with the Toyota. 2 Toyotas, boom. Silver bullet, NR dime. Nice layouts. Ranger Danger, cut up. This thing was insane. Jeff Fuller. You got Tom Jones with the Isuzu pup. Looking crazy. Best of 2006. So I always love this because you get a chance to kind of see the past covers for that year. Of course, we went through all of those. You got all the contributors that would chime in and kind of say, hey, you know, state their case for the different categories. And drum roll. On the right, you've got Blazerado from Farva. You've got Southeast Showdown, rest in peace to John. I got a chance to go to that show in 2012. And then you have Acrophobia right there in the middle. You can kind of see. Rest in peace, Danny Rowe. I know he passed away, and the anniversary of his passing was recently, and rest in peace to him. You got a young Eddie Sabreco. You got Waz Up. I know Chad Lucas, always been into soccer, so that was cool. They threw that in there. And then here was one little thing, tidbit. A writer wrote in and said, hey, anywhere I could find this issue. And Mike Alexander, or actually this was Ernie, rest in peace. Ernie went and did some digging, and of course he says, hey, it was the Hot Mini Truck Pictorial. You got to check the forums and some of the email groups. Who remembers those? The e-groups. That was like after the forums, before the internet really got crazy with social media. But yeah, that's a rare issue, kind of getting harder to find. I think one recently sold on eBay for like, I think 50 to 70, maybe $70 to $100. Pretty crazy. You also have Ron Perkins' Irregular Cab. So again, issue 181, January 2007, kicking off January with an insane jam-packed issue. So many great trucks. You got a chance to get the kudos to the club and truck of the year. What I'm going to do now is show you briefly. I had to go out and dig this up. I do typically, I think I have all of the posters, but you can see right here, that's what it looks like. So great job to Nick Crouch. You can see right there, photography Nick. And there's the finished photo of it. And then you got photography Mike Alexander, artwork Nick Crouch. And you can just, again, kind of see some of the tie-ins to the cover. This is basically the cover, right? Because you have the sparks here, and then you have this, and then you've got like that metal-looking background right there. So, boom. Check it out. Thank you so much for the support. Stay on the rise. Share this video with anybody that you think will appreciate it. Remember, we are your Mini Truckin' headquarters. ODB. We out ya. That front end, though. Peace.